Hello and welcome to Hexed and Countered. My name is Joe. We are continuing our Flying Pig February series and our series on Platoon Commander Deluxe Kursk. This is going to be the first part of Scenario 11, which actually comes in, I believe, 3 parts. So this would be Scenario 11A, and it covers the Battle of Prokhorovka, which is the biggest tank battle of the Second World War, and I believe for a while it was the largest tank battle in the history of warfare. But we're going to play the first part of it. So this is going to be a tank-heavy scenario. In my previous video on the game, which was kind of meant to be an introductory look at the game, I didn't even play the entire scenario. It was infantry only. There were some half-tracks, some APCs in it, but by and large, infantry, and it was just kind of to show the mechanics, sequence of play, kind of go through some of the basic rules and so on and so forth, so that you'd have an idea, if you have not played this game or seen it played before, of just how it works. This one will be more of a straight-up playthrough of this Scenario 11A, which takes place at daybreak on July 12th, 1943. It says, at daybreak on July 12, 1943, elements of the 1st and 2nd SS Panzer Grenadier Regiments were ordered to capture Hill 226.6 in preparation for an assault on Prokhorovka. Shortly after overrunning several Soviet infantry positions, the Panzer Grenadiers were targeted by a massive artillery bombardment, and immediately after that came the Soviet tanks of the 5th Guard Tanks Army. We are using map A. At the bottom it says there are 5 victory hexes: B8, E4, F4, J2, and J8. And here on the next page, whoever controls the majority of victory hexes at the end of the scenario's conclusion wins. So for our Soviet forces, we have 12 T-34-76s, 2 KV-1s, 3 T-70s, and they will enter on turn 1 in hex A6. So I will show you that in a bit. And on the German side, we have 2 Panzer VI Tigers, or Tiger 1s, I guess, 9 Panzer IVs, 3 Panzer IIIs, and they enter on turn 1, hex S6. So they're opposite ends of the map. Map A runs from row A through row S, as you might gather, and A through 12 as far as north to south, top to bottom, whichever you prefer. So special scenario rules: Soviet artillery cards played on turn 2 through and including turn 4 get an additional +2 added to the firepower attack. So that's they have some powerful artillery in this scenario. And the Minoye Poye cards, they play as artillery 4 cards. Those are minefields. So the minefield cards, if they draw one, will play as artillery cards. 6-turn scenario, action cards each will receive 2 cards per turn from the start of turn 1. So we're not drawing any pre-game. We'll draw them in the regular draw action card phase, which is the second phase of the turn. So we're going to jump right in here and get right to work. All right, dice off time. So we'll roll first for the Soviets. They're the home team, so to speak. So we'll let them go first. 2. Okay. Germans only need to beat a 2 and get an 8. So the Germans will have initiative in turn number 1. Okay, so as mentioned in the scenario setup, we do have 2 Panzer VI Tiger 1s here. We have 3 Panzer IIIs, and the most common Panzer in the German army during the Second World War was the Panzer IV. So we have 9 of these guys. So they all enter here on S6. But first things first is we have to do the card phase, because that's the second phase. So we'll draw 2. 1, 2 for the Germans, and 1, 2 for the Soviets. And we'll see what the Germans get. So as I mentioned before, the cards are all top half Soviet, bottom half German. So we're looking at the bottom half. 999 negates last USSR card played, must be played immediately after card is played. And veteran, which allows us to rally the target unit. So both useful. Now, when I get cards like this 999 card, I'll use a die to decide kind of if I should play it or not. That way, I can play because I'm playing both sides. I want to be able to kind of take some of that decision making out of my hands. Like if I play a good Soviet card, would the German player play the 999 card automatically or not? I'm not sure. So I wanted to kind of take that out of my hands. Now we'll look at the Soviets cards. Schmert Faschistum. Raise the morale of all Soviet units 1 point for the remainder of the turn. So that's a good one. And Maskirovka. Negate the effects of a single ranged combat attack against a stationary unit or units. So this word, I actually know what it means. It kind of means like trickery or, like I guess trickery is kind of a good word for it. I'm sure I'm drawing a blank on a better synonym for it, but it's employing deception and so on. So it's being deceptive, I guess, maybe would be a better way to put it. All right, so the third phase is the rally phase, which we obviously can pass on turn number 1. And we come to the fire phase. Now, these are tanks. They do have better range, but nobody's on the board. So we're not firing in this first turn. Movement phase. Okay, so movement phase quickly. The initiative side goes first, moves all their units. The non-initiative side goes second and moves all their units. Fire, we'll get into the fire phase when we actually have one. And as I mentioned, I don't want to explain the rules overly much. If you did not watch the first video, please do so, because I did focus on trying to explain the rules in that one as a way to kind of get everyone up to speed for this particular playthrough. So we're going to start moving. So the movement factor's in the middle. So it's the middle number here. Again, if you didn't watch, please do. We have the road. There are terrain effects here, right? So road, it's 1 regardless of other terrain in the hex when entered from a contiguous road hex, otherwise cost of terrain in the hex. +1 movement factor if the entire allowance is spent on the road. So this hex has a road on it, as does A6 at the other end of the board where the Soviets will come in. So basically, because his movement factors are 4, we can go 5. So we're going to go 1, 2 if we stay on the road. Direction is, well, they both kind of, we can go up and around, I guess. So we'll do that. We're going to send 1 tiger north. So we started here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Second tiger will come in. He's going to go south. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I say south, I mean south in terms of, oh, you know what? Let me zoom this out a little bit so you can see the whole map. Oops, wrong way. And there. Whoops, not quite. There we go. All right. So that's most of the map. I'd like to be zoomed in a little bit more because the counters in this game, I love them. I love the counters, and I love the whole presentation that Flying Pig Games gives you. We'll take our Panzer IVs. We'll start here. So they have a movement factor of 5, so they can actually go 6 if they stay on the road. So we will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Stacking is 2. So keep that in mind. So we're going to have to kind of line them up because we can't build. We obviously won't be able to put too many. We can go off into the terrain, of course, as well. And we'll go here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. And now we're going to start having the branch out. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because that's not a road. And then we'll move the second one there as well. And we'll send this third one. We'll put him here. And we'll take our Panzer IIIs. We'll put one. They have a movement factor of 6, actually. So we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, 1, 2. Woo! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I should have moved them before the Panzer IV. Because you can't pass through. That's the rule. So rather than violate the rules, we'll just do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then this guy can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And how many? We got 2, 3, 6 there, and 2, 4, 6, 7. So we'll put this guy. We'll have him go south, I guess. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This terrain here is cultivated. Actually, it's a 2 for fighting vehicles, so he actually would end up here. Okay, so now we are all set for the German movement phase, and now we'll move on to the Soviet movement phase. Okay, so here we are on the other side of the map. So we have 12 T-34 76 with the 76 gun, 2 KV-1s, and 3 T-70s. So we're going to move out. The T-34s have a movement factor of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll go here. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I can't move into the. Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put him in the woods. Because forest, rather. Movement factor for AFVs is 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is an elevation line, so it would cost 2 to move up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, in theory, he could go one more and go to 6, so we'll... actually, let's do one of the KV-1s first. 1, 2... They only have a movement factor of 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, because it's all on road. And we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to stack those two together because they have such a low movement. Actually, hang on. We'll do that one second because I want to leave that road clear for the other units to go through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, can't do that. So 5. We have 2 left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And our other KV-1 is going to go here. We have 2 of those, and then we have our T-70s, which have a movement factor of 5. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So that ends the movement phase. So with the movement phase completed, we move to the close assault phase. Nobody's adjacent, so there won't be any of that. Then we go to housekeeping phase. There are no markers. I should have placed move markers on all of these guys to show that they had moved. I did not do that because we're just moving everybody onto the board, essentially. So nothing there. So we go to the aid and focus phase. So you have your aid and focus chits or counters. Start on the 1 die side. And I'm going to put one with this in this hex here with these 2. And likewise, I will put the other one. This is the Soviet aid one. Let's put this with our KV ones. So the focus allows you to re-roll a combat roll if you don't like it, but you do have to accept the results of the second one. It also allows you to use it towards initiative, towards gaining initiative. And the aid actually helps you when you need to rally from a disrupted unit. So let's see, we'll place our focus for the Germans with our Tiger. And I'll put my aid with these two Panzer IVs here in the middle. Now, we did mention the victory hexes. And the victory hexes are B8, which is here. E4, F4. So E4 and F4 are here. These two foresty ones on the hill. And then J2 and J8. So J2 is here and J8 is here. So mostly forest hexes are the victory hexes, except for B8 down here. So we need to keep that in mind and try to capture those, because that is how you win the scenario. So we do have a whole bunch of armored forces here. We have a lot of tanks, and they're about to start throwing some metal at each other. All right, so after we do the aid and focus phase, we move on to the advanced turn marker, as you might expect. So that's off camera, which is fine. We're on turn 2. You can see here, I moved it. All right, the Germans had initiative. So if there's a tie when you do the initiative phase, which is where we are now, if there's a tie, the tie goes to the team that didn't, or the side that didn't have initiative. So we'll roll for the Germans first. So they get a 2. So I'll just roll for the side that has initiative will be first going forward. Germans get a 0, so the Soviets get a 0, so the Germans get initiative or keep initiative. So we go to our draw action card phase. And so we'll draw two cards for each. 1, 2, 1, 2. This time the Germans get airstrike and turn the tables. So airstrike allows you to conduct an airstrike attack, which is useful to say the least. And turn the tables, draw and place in your hand a random card from the Soviet player's hand. So this again is another one, and it tells you the phase you can play it in. So you can play the airstrike during the fire phase, and this can be played at any time. So I also have the 999 that can be played at any time, and a rally card, a rally target, a veteran rather, which rallies a unit. So I'm probably going to use the turn the tables after. So let's see. We're going to look at their cards. Vodka, disregard 2 unnegated hits. That's nice. And sniper attack. Disrupt target unit. Target must be within 4 hexes of and have clear line of sight to a city, town, or forest hex. So they can play this obviously in the fire or movement phase. And so any units like these that are near forest or city, so they must be within 4 hexes of and have clear line of sight to a city, town, or forest hex. So that's also a useful one because you're going to automatically disrupt one of the German units. All right, so we're going to say that the Germans are going to play this turn the table card. So we're going to turn the table, but because I don't know, in theory, since this is a 2-player game, I wouldn't know what they have in their hand. They have 4 cards. Luckily, I have myself a D8. So I'm going to pull out my trusty D8. So we'll go 1, 2. Oh, let me put these on the board so you can actually see them. So we're spending our turn the tables card. I'm going to discard that just so we know it's played. And then we have our 4 cards here for the Soviets. And we would use the German side. So the German side, they have artillery barrage, bore-sighted, Schnell, and Gegenfeuer. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pretty simple. We rolled, oh, this is a 10-sider. Whoops. Here's my 8-sider. Duh. All right, let's try this again. 8. So we get this guy. So they lose their Maskarovka, and we get Gegenfeuer, which says the Soviet player must discard all artillery cards in their hand. All right. So we'll take these 3 and put them back over here. And they don't really have, they have a card that can be played in the rally phase. And they have a card that can be played in the fire and movement phase. And they have vodka, which can be used at any time. So that would come into effect when we do a combat and they have hits. So we're going to move on here to the that was the draw action card phase. We go to the rally phase. I kind of think maybe I want to play. So what I did before with this, because the Soviets have a card that does the same thing as this, where you basically, here what it says is Soviet player must discard all artillery cards in their hand, right? So in theory, the German player, the right half of my brain or whatever, doesn't know that the left half of my brain, whether it has an artillery card or not. I'm going to roll a die every round, every turn that I have this. And if I get an even, I'm going to play this card to make them lose their artillery card, whether they have one or not. It's a 7, so it's odd. We're not playing it. We're going to hold on to it. Okay, so we're just going to do that every time we get through the draw action card phase. So right after that, and the same for the Soviets. If they get a card like that's about drawing a card or making the Germans discard or something like that, when they don't know in theory what they have in their hand, you have to figure out a way to handle that when you're playing one-handed like I am. So moving on to the rally phase, nobody needs to be rallied. We go to the fire phase. So now we need to figure out, do we have units that can actually hit each other at the distance? And so you have to take into account things like line of sight, of course, as well as the distance across. To be honest, I don't think we might have line of sight between this guy and this guy. And a blue range, if we look at our trusty player aid card, it's actually green. It's not blue, it's green, Joe. So here's green. Long range would be 5. So, as I mentioned, because this terrain blocks the second hex of this adjacent to it would block it. So if we say we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is the extent of our range anyway. But 6, 7, I'm pretty sure we can see them and they can see us, but they're also green, so they also can't fire. So other than that, I don't think any of these other guys. We have a hill here which blocks line of sight of and for these guys and this guy. This guy's in a forest with forest in front of him that way. And again, the range is too far to see anything. So at this point, nobody can really see anybody else. So we're just going to move on to the movement phase. And again, the Germans get to go first because they are they have the initiative. Okay, so I reorganized things a little bit just to kind of get a little bit of a tighter shot here. Now, one thing, I do have my airstrike card for the Germans. And for the Soviets, I don't have anything that would kind of negate playing a card. But the airstrike card's good in the fire phase, which we just completed. And here's our Stuka. So this is what we would be attacking with. So you can see it's got a 12 attack factor against armor, which is nice, real good, right? But you need line of sight from a ground unit to call in the airstrike, essentially. And we don't have it right now. So this is going to have to take place probably in turn number 3. So let's get to the movement phase. So Germans move first. So we know our objective hexes are here, here, and here, right? Okay. So obviously, I think these two would be the first ones we want to hit as far as trying to capture them. The key thing is now they've got tanks here. The line of sight, their range is their long range is 5 because they're green. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They can go out to here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or here. Obviously, we got a Panzer III that can easily advance into range of these guys, so you have to worry about opportunity fire. So these are all things to consider when you're planning your move. Our Panzer III here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You would need another one extra to go in here because this is a forest. It's also uphill. Doesn't have enough to get there. We'll take one of our Panzer IVs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He can go here because it's all road. So we have a 3 and a 4 together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Our Tiger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these moves were made because none of them will be in the line of fire from our Soviet forces who are over in that direction. Sliding down a bit, we're going to take our Panzer III, and this is going to result in opportunity fire most likely. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. Now, if we look here, they're on a ridge, a crest line here. They're behind another crest line here at a level of elevation lower. The line of sight does not, they don't have line of sight to this hex. 1, 2, 3, 4, even though it's within range, they don't have line of sight to it because they're basically hidden behind the crest line. So with that being said, since they moved 4 to get here, I believe we're going to move up to this one and stop. And again, the crest line protects them from any fire from these guys. There are 2 Panzer IVs over here. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to stop right there outside of opportunity fire range. Actually, no, we can move up one more because we're in the second of this hex, the rolling terrain. So that protects, because there are 2 of them back to back, the Soviet forces that are over here in that direction can't fire on them because they don't have line of sight to this hex. And I need to drop moved markers on all these guys. So moved, 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 moved. This Panzer IV over here will follow suit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because it's all road. They get it moved as well. Okay, down here, this is one of our objective hexes, J8. So we're going to try to get to it. So we have these 2 Panzer IVs here with the aid marker. We also have our King Tiger, 2 more Panzer IVs here, and a 3. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we don't have enough to get to it. 1, 2, 3, 4. They can get to it. So we're going to take this 3 and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So they're inside the forest now on the objective. Then we'll take our 2 4s here and go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and stop here. Almost out of the shot. So you can see them a little bit better. Then our King Tiger, or not King Tiger, Tiger 1. It's only got a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll put him there. And then our 2 4s here will go 1, 2, 3, 4, and stop. Moved. And that will complete the German movement phase and no opportunity fire for the Soviets. So now we'll go on and do the Soviet movement phase. Let's start up here in this area. So we have a T-70 and we have a T-34 and a T-34 here. They're on the lower level of the hill. This is the top of the hill here, which has, couple T-34s, couple T-34s, couple more, and then you have a KV-1. Actually, both KV-1s are also on the very top of the hill. And then below that, we have a few units that we'll get to in a moment. But we do know that two of the hexes on this hill are the objective hexes, this one and this one. So, or obviously amongst the objective hexes. And to win, you have to be the side that ends the scenario with the most of those in your possession. So we kind of have to have, from the Soviet side, I feel like we need to have a strategy of both trying to hold on to what we've got and also to try and destroy the Germans as well. So let's try to serve two masters here is what I'm saying, I guess. We're going to take our T-34 here and we're just going to move him up. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he'll be in the woods. Like so. And from here, he has no shot at any of these units or any of these units because of line of sight being blocked. We'll take our T-70. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we'll take our T-70, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll put him here. And we'll take our other T-34. Now, if you don't go up here, this would cost 2 movement points, but we can go around the hill. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like so. Okay. So neither side is really engaging yet. That is likely to change here. Now, we do have the option to move and fire. When you have a counter that has the symbol on it like this, let me get this in focus here. Come on. There we go. All right, so you see the 5 and it's in kind of a blue burst. That means they can move and fire, and you take column shifts based on that as well. And I don't know if I mentioned this. I know I mentioned it in the first video, but column shifts to the left make combat or an attack less effective. Column shifts to the right make them more effective. So when you have a blue burst like this, you can move and fire, and basically blue means it's a 2 column shift to the left, and there's an orange one as well, which the T-70 has here. The orange one is only a 1 column shift. Of course, the T-70's firepower is not anywhere near as powerful as that of the T-34. So you have to kind of take that into account as well. The other part of move and fire is you can only move half your movement factor. These guys have a 5. Everything gets rounded down, so essentially you can only move 2. Because half would be 2.5, but you round that down, it becomes a 2. So they can move 2 hexes or 2 movement points and then fire. Which means this guy here, I mean, he's a solo guy, but he can move here and then here and attack this guy. But we also have to factor in this guy up here, because this only is line of sight blocking when it's 2 of them adjacent. So as soon as he moves down here off the crest line, he's already visible to this guy, and in theory 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 he could have fired at him. Or would be if he was eligible, but he moved to this area, so you can't move and fire unless you only move half your movement, and he moved more than half to get there. So, over-explaining, which is something I tend to do, I apologize. But we're going to take this guy and we're going to move him here. Now, as soon as he moves here, he's visible to this guy and this guy. Actually, he can't attack him. I'm sorry, he can't because he's still on the hill. There's a crest line here, so he can't fire at him. But he could, and that's a Panzer III, and we would take a 1 column shift to the left for that as well. So we're not going to do that. We're going to leave our Panzer III here, and we're going to hope to get a good roll on our attack, because he moved 2, so he moved, and now he's going to fire at him. So when you do movement fire, as I mentioned, we look at he's got a firepower of 8, he's by himself, he does have the focus with him, so that means he can use that to re-roll. So he has an 8, and he's attacking here, he's in rolling terrain, Rolling terrain. It's a 1-column shift for fire combat. So he's going to have a 1-column shift for that. So that 8 would then become a 6 essentially. The armor factor on here is a 2, so that's going to make it a 4. So yeah, so you go 8 to 6 when you adjust for the armor, then a 1-column shift to make it 4. And then a 2-column shift because it's movement fire. So he's actually in the 0 column. So 0 column, anything 8 or lower will be at least 1 hit. So let's roll for that. Bring in the trusty dice tower here. So we're going to roll 1 die. And we get a 2, which again, a low roll on an attack is always good. So we go to column 0. A 2 is 2 hits. Okay, so he could elect to roll again, but a 2, as I mentioned, is pretty good. And if he rolled again, the chances of it being lower than a 2, a 1 or a 0 is only a 20% chance, so we will not do that. So we'll instead roll 2 die for the Germans. Their morale is a 5, so anything 5 or lower will negate the hit. 5 and a 5, so no hits. No hits. We drop a fired marker on here, which means he cannot do close assault, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't attack here, because we can actually close assault him. I don't know that I will because the odds won't be great, but something we can consider doing anyway. So take that away. All right, so there's 1. We move these guys. These 2 I'm going to actually leave on the hill, and I'm going to leave my KV-1s here for now. So let's talk about this guy here. He can also move up and attack him. I think. Actually, no, he can't, because he can go 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. He can attack here, though. So let's do that. We'll go 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay. Let me adjust my shot here. This guy's out from the crest line, so he's actually visible. So it's 1, 2, 3. And we'll do that. So we'll take these 2 guys and go 1, 2, 3, 4. And stop, because that's our movement limit. Move markers. Here we go. Okay, so we got a moved marker. Now, both of these will be eligible for close assault. This was actually a kind of a bad move now that I look at it and I think about it a little more, because the Germans have initiative. They have units here and here, so they can do a close assault on our friend right here. They do have 2 T-34s, but this would be a good opportunity to show you what a close assault looks like, so I'm going to leave it there, even though this was a poor move, because we're going to have flank. We're going to be flanked, and it's going to kind of be ugly for those guys, but we'll do it anyway, just so you can kind of see what that looks like. And then we'll take our T-70s here. You know what? I'm going to use these guys to 1, 2, 3. They're going to go over there. This is one of our objective hexes, and they're going to go there and hold it. So we're going to have a defensive position on that particular victory hex. So we're covering, this one's open, but we've got 4 T-34s here. Wait, how do we get 3 there? That's wrong. Man, I don't know. We started in A6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How did they get there? Might have screwed this up somehow. So we'll have 2 here, and I'm going to put the other guy back here, only because I think I screwed that up somehow. I don't know how I ended up with 3 T-34s there, but that's obviously violating stacking limits. So that's going to end the movement phase, and now we'll go to our close assault phase. So we do have the possibility of a couple of, or yeah, well, basically 2 possible close assaults. One here and one here. This one, probably not great. And again, they alternate. So if I were to do one here first, that would allow this one to close assault either here or here and kind of break this up. So the one I would want to start with is this one. The because then the Soviet turn would go, and these guys can't close assault because they fired. So from a German standpoint, it makes sense to do this, to assault here first, because that negates the possibility that the opponent can assault here. But if I assault here first, then the Soviets would go next, and they can assault with this guy, either here or here. Most likely this one. That's a well, I don't know. It would be worth looking at which way to go. Ideally, I think would be this one. But so we are going to do a close assault on this hex right here, which has two T-34s in it. So I'm just going to move these off. So we'll use the Panzer IVs here as our main force. And you look at the number in the lower right corner. That's the close assault factor. So Soviets have 8. They have 4 for this, 8 in this one and 4 more in this one. And we'd also get a flanking as well. All right, so the way close assault works is, as I mentioned, you alternate just like you would in the fire phase. You add up your assault factor, so we have 8 here, and 4 more is 12. They have 8. So it's odds based. So you would need 16 to be 2 to 1. So it's actually 1 to 1. But we have a flank attack, because the way flanking works is if you're attacking one hex from hex sides that aren't adjacent to each other. Like we're attacking through this hex side and they're attacking through that hex side. This one in the middle is not part of the attack. This guy is flanking. So we can put a flanked on here. I'm just going to stick it next to it just to indicate that we have a flank attack there, even though I know we have a flank attack there. And that's a 1 column shift to the right, which would move it to a 2 to 1. Now we're also going up a hill, so that's going to actually shift it as well. So on a hill, it's a 1 column shift to the left. So 3 only if attacked exclusively from O. So that won't affect it because we're not exclusively attacking from there. We're also attacking from here. So that would negate it. So we do get a 2 to 1 odds here on our close assault table, 2 to 1. So the numbers, we have like slashed numbers here. The number before the slash is the number of hits to the defender, and the one to the right is the number of hits to the attacker. So again, if you roll low, if you rolled a 0 with a 2 to 1 odds, you get 10 hits to none for you. It's unlikely we'll do that. You get a 10% chance, but in general, as long as we don't roll like anything above a 4 or anything up to 3 is going to be good for us. Anything 4 or higher gets a little more sketchy. So let's take a shot at this. All right, so we're going to roll 1 die, just like we usually do when we do an attack. And we got a 1. This is going to be really bad for the Soviets. Okay, so when you roll a 1 here, it's 8 hits for the Soviets and 2 for the Germans. So they are going to play their vodka card, which negates 2 hits, so that makes it 6 hits instead of 8. I'm going to take all 6 of my dice that come with the game, and they need a 3 or lower to negate hits. So they negated a couple. They negated more, actually. They negated 1. They got a 0, a 2, and a 2, so 3 hits are out, and 3 hits stay in. Unfortunately, 3 hits is enough to kill 1 unit, but they have 2 units in the hex, so you distribute them evenly. So both units will end up disrupted. That'll be 2 hits, and then 1 will get reduced. So we're going to have 1 reduced T-34 and 1 that is just disrupted. Whoops. So we'll throw disrupted on here. Now we'll roll for the Germans, who took 2 hits. So they took 2 hits. We'll roll 2 dice. And we got a 9 and a 3, so that's 1 hit. So what that will do is, also they're going to have to retreat, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But we're going to disrupt one of our units, so we'll disrupt one of our Panzer IVs. The other one will not be disrupted. So if you have a result where the defender takes more damage than the attacker, they must retreat. So this guy, let me move this out of here. He is going to retreat in this direction, which would leave him adjacent only to our Panzer IV that's going to advance up here. and these both get fired markers. Take this away, and these also would get fired markers. Take that away. And that is how close assault works. And as I mentioned, I could do it here, but here's the thing. We'd be going uphill. That's a 1 column shift to the left. The factors are 4 against 4, so that would be 1 to 1. Now the Soviets couldn't do it. It would be their turn to assault, but they don't have any eligible assaulting units, so the Germans could, in theory, assault here again. So you're looking at 1 to 1 odds, and then a 1 column shift, which becomes 1 to 2. And as you can see here, unless you roll a 1 or a 0, you're going to do more damage to yourself than the defender. And it's not key for me to take this. I can move these guys up, and I can move these guys up and attack them next turn. From the German side, I have units up here. I know they're off shot right now, but I have some units up on the road here. I can move right down real easily and attack these guys. So that's going to do it for our close assault phase. We now go to the housekeeping phase. I'll do that off camera. It's just pulling the markers off of our units here. Then we'll do aid and focus and move on to turn number 3. One quick note before we move on is that I have my 999 card, which would have allowed us to try to negate the vodka card that the Soviet player that we played for the Soviets in the close assault. I should have rolled odd or even. So even would have meant they played the card, which would have negated that, and it would have been 8 hits. And we might have ended up actually getting more hits, and that would have ended up maybe possibly even destroying one of those units, or destroying even both possibly. But I did forget that. I do want to note that I forgot to do that, and we will pick that. Obviously, I'll do that in the, I'll try to remember to do that going forward. We are now going to go to the aid and focus phase. So we know we have 1 here, which was not used. Flip that to the 2 side. Our aid marker is here. We'll flip that to the 2 side as well for the Soviets. And then on the German side, that's already on 2 because I put it down wrong, and I think this one has it. So let's flip this guy to 2 as well. So our Tiger has the focus, and the Panzer IV has the aid. So that's that. And then we go to our advanced turn marker. We're going to turn number 3. First thing we need to do is roll for initiative. Now, as I mentioned before, side that had it before I roll them first. That's just my little house rule. They rolled a 3. When you're playing 2-player, you would obviously roll at the same time. So 3 for the Germans, 0 for the Soviets. So the Germans maintain initiative for the 3rd straight turn. We go to the card phase. So we draw 2 cards for the Germans, 2 cards for the Soviets. And let's see what we got here. So the Germans get aggressive leadership. Remove the moved or fired marker from 1 unit. That's nice. Oh, and an artillery barrage. That's 8 firepower attack. That's very nice. So that's something we'll need to take advantage of, I would say. Then on the Soviet side, we have a second one of these. This is the second time we've gotten this one where we can raise the morale by 1 point. I could have also played this. I can play this during the rally phase, so I probably will now that I have 2 of them. And we also have Niet, which is kind of the counterpart to 999, which negates the last German card played. So this one, and well, theoretically, both of these I'll roll for to see if they use them. But I think since I have 2 of these, I might just use 1 just for... because there's no reason not to in the rally phase. And we do have a disrupted unit, so it would be good to raise its morale in hopes of getting it undisrupted. And speaking of the rally phase, that's where we are now. All right, rally phase. So they have, or I should say we have, on the Soviet side, we have 2 of these, Smert Fascistum. which raises the morale of all Soviet units by 1 point for the remainder of the turn, usable in the rally phase. So we're going to play this. Soviet morale for this rally phase is now, and for the rest of the turn, in fact, is 4. So good for the Soviets. So you have to roll for each unit separately. We have 2 disrupted T-34s here, 1 reduced, 1 not. First one rolls, successful. Second one rolls, not successful. So we'll say that we'll leave the reduced guy disrupted, I guess. I didn't really specify which order I was rolling them in, so we'll just do it that way. The Germans do not have a... Oh, they do have a rally. They have a veteran card. So we will employ our veteran card. Now I'm going to roll to see if the Soviets will use their Niet card. They do not. So that allows the Germans to rally our Panzer IV without a roll. Okay, so as we enter the fire phase, I did want to mention that the Germans actually have both an airstrike card, which can be used in the fire phase, and they also have an artillery barrage card, which can be used in fire or movement. Now, the key thing in both those cases is that you need line of sight. So ideally, I would hit the hill, which is loaded up with Soviet tanks at the moment. But the Germans do not have line of sight to the hill. At least not to the units on the hill. So therefore, they will not be utilizing either of those cards. That may be something we will employ in turn number 4, depending on where everybody is at the end of this phase. So instead, the Germans will make their first fire attack. One of their units is disrupted. It's going to be an 8 firepower to start versus a 4 armor. We'll attack the non-disrupted unit. So you have to choose a target. We're going to choose to target the non-disrupted T-34 here to see if we can at least disrupt him, basically make them static, and then I can probably move in my movement phase, maybe move up even with my King Tiger or something. I keep calling it King Tiger. It's just a Tiger. Tiger 1, move him up. I mean, he's got a movement factor of 4, so he can go through the forest would be 2, and 3 to get here adjacent, and I can move the other Panzer IV up as well. And we could close assault him again, looking from the German strategic side. So that's the plan here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our Panzer IV here by itself. Like, this guy is also in range of him, but he can't attack because, well, he can't assist in this attack. He can attack himself in a succeeding fire attack, but right now we're just doing Panzer IV to our T-34 here, top guy, the undisrupted one. Firepower is 8. We're adjacent, so we get a 1 column shift to the right. We're going to take 4 off first, so the firepower becomes 4, and then we shift it 1 to the right to make it 6. So we're going to be in the 6 column here. So we're looking at the 6 column right here. So again, anything low is a good roll. So pretty much we're guaranteed 2 hits, pretty much, or not pretty much. We are guaranteed 2 hits. Yeah, they don't have a card that they can play that's going to impact this. So we're going to roll. And we rolled a 9, which is the best possible roll for them. That's only 2 hits. So again, we're going to roll 2 die to see if we can negate. And because we played our Smrt Fascistum card, they get a morale of 4. So 4 or less negates a hit. And they got a 0, so that's 1 hit negated, but the 6 is a hit, so they are going to be disrupted. So I'm just going to take my disrupted that's between them, and I'm just going to put it on top, because both units in this hex are now disrupted. So that would be my first fired attack. I'm going to drop fired on here. Now the Soviets can counter with an attack themselves. And what we're going to do here is I have a sniper attack card for the Soviets. And this disrupts the target unit. It must be within 4 hexes of and have a clear line of sight to a city, town, or forest hex. So we're going to do it here. He's adjacent to a forest hex. We'll do it to the Panzer IV, not the Panzer III. So I'm going to put the Panzer III on top, but I'm going to drop a disrupted on here and put the Panzer III on top, like so. And then this card is actually, I don't have a Niet 999, so that's expended. And we That was their action, but they did get to play the card. They still get to make an attack. So let's see if we have a fire attack we can make for the Soviets here. Okay, so looking at our board, we don't really have a shot for the Soviets except in one spot, and that's here. So because of the crest lines outlining the hill, the rule is if the line of sight between a unit and its target crosses a crest line, they generally cannot fire. Which makes sense because if you think in terms of the tank, it would have to depress its gun to shoot downhill. Even if it's further back and it can actually see it, it still might not be able to target it because it would have to depress the gun because of the ballistics or whatever. So I'm just going to go with what it says in the rules is that you cannot. If an attacker is on a hill, it normally may not fire at an enemy unit if its line of sight crosses a crest line. So we'll take that at its word. That is the rule. So that would mean that only this one can, because the adjacency actually eliminates that rule about the crest line. So we're like right next to each other. They're adjacent. He can attack him. But the question is, do I want to attack him? Fire on him, rather? Or do I want to wait and close assault him? Because the close assault factors are identical. And we do have firepower of 8 and the armor of 2. So in this case, I am going to fire this at this. So okay, we look at the effects here. So we have an 8 minus 2 is a 6. So we're in the 6th column. But terrain effects for the rolling terrain for fire combat for an AFV is 1. So we're going to shift 1 to the left, which makes it a 4. Still decent odds on a 4. You're guaranteed at least 1 hit. So we will roll here on this attack. And I could zoom in more, but we're just gonna do this quick and dirty. We rolled a 9, so that's 1 hit. So they did inflict 1 hit. Let me drop a fired marker on our T-34 here. But here's the thing. He's got his focus. So we're going to actually employ that. Use that. And then I'm still gonna mark him fired because he has to accept this. Now he could expend both and roll 2 dice and take whichever one he wants, but we're just gonna roll 1 because it'll be hard to. Even if we roll another 9, we'll just have wasted 1. Whoops, that was not what I meant to do. 5. See, now 5 is better. A 5 in the 4 column is 2 hits. So now the Germans will roll, and we get a 9 and a 0, so that's 1 hit. And our Panzer III is disrupted. Okay, so now we go back to the Germans for their fire next. And so what the Germans will do is we have this card that I'm going to play called Aggressive Leadership, which removes the moved or fired marker from one unit. And I'm going to remove my fired marker from my Panzer IV. I'm not going to do anything with him currently, because he's in line now for an assault on our 2 disrupted units here. So our next fire attack is just like the Soviets don't really have one. I don't know that we have one either because of the crest line. Like this guy here could not attack him. The Panzer III can attack here, but I'm not going to do it because it's unlikely to do much damage. It's a Panzer III. He's a 4 firepower. The armor, when you're disrupted, your armor isn't affected. What disruption will affect is your ability to obviously take action, but it also affects close assault defense. It actually halves it. So these guys, which both have a close assault factor of 4, those will be halved. So we have 8, but it's actually going to play as a 4 when we do, assuming we do, which from the German side, I would plan on close assaulting this hex to get rid of them. And then open the southern path here, so to speak, somewhat at least, because we do have to deal with these guys to get to this hex here. So that is the plan, is to close assault here. So we're not going to do any more fire actions. We're going to move directly to our movement, which again, the Germans have initiative, so the Germans would go first. So we're going to do German movement. All right, so here's the thinking. We're going to take our 2 Panzer IVs here, and we're going to get them in a position where they can do some damage. They both have a movement factor of 5. So we are going to do 1, 2, and we are now adjacent to our T-34 here. And we are going to attack him with a move and fire. So again, 5, you have it. You can move 2, which we did, 1, 2. It's a blue, so that's a 2-column shift to the left on the attack. We have 8, and then the other unit will assist by making a 2-column shift to the right. So that negates the shift for the move and fire, essentially. So we're 8 attacking an armor of 4. That leaves a 4. There's no cover here in this hill hex. If you're on the hill, and it's only if you're attacked from lower elevation would it have an impact. So basically, we're in the 4 column for our attack. We're going to roll. Let's roll. We rolled a 7, which is not great, but it is 2 hits. So the Soviets will roll with their morale. Oops, I forgot to put this out here. I rolled a 7. Take my word for it. We'll roll for morale to negate. We got a 4 and a 9, so that's 1 hit. They are now disrupted. Now, I could have moved them there and stopped and just kind of sat there for close assault, but I have a scheme in mind that I think I just blew anyway. Maybe not. So what we'll do next is we're going to take our Panzer III here. He's going to go up onto this crest line. That's 2, 3, 4. So he now can do that. This guy's going to move up 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll drop a moved marker on them. We'll drop a fired marker on him. Now we have a flanking assault in place. And then this guy will move up. That's 2, 3, and he's going to go in the forest right here. 5. Which puts him, you can shoot along a hex side and not lose line of sight, except that if both sides of the hex were the same terrain and it was blocking terrain, it would block. So this line of sight, this hex can see this hex and vice versa, obviously. So the Soviets would be able to do opportunity fire here, so they might as well do that. So they're going to do opportunity fire. So we have an 8 and a 4 with a -1 on the die roll. We're in a forest. So the forest for an armored fighting vehicle, forest is only a 1-column shift. So that 8 minus 4 is 4. Column shift to the left makes it a 2. So we're in the 2 column. We roll our attack. We get a 4. A 4 in the 2 column is 2 hits. We roll against the German morale of 5, and we negate 1 hit, and the other one flies true, and we have that. Now we'll move our King Tiger. I keep calling it a King Tiger. Tiger 1, Joe. Tiger 1. 2, 3, 4. Drop a moved on him as well. And now we're going to move to the southern part of the map. So southern part of the map, this guy's not moving. We're going to move our Panzer IV. We'll go here. That's 2, 3, and he's going to sit there in preparation for a close assault. Then we're going to take our Tiger here, and we're going to go 2, 3. So he's going to be here, and I'm going to drop this at the bottom because it applies to the whole hex. So we have a Tiger and a 4 sitting here in this hex. That might not have been the best move, actually. Hang on. I'm gonna call an audible here. We're going to leave him here, and we're going to take our Tiger. We're going to go 2, 3, 4, and put him here. That way we have a flanking attack in place. We can drop moved on there. Then we have these 2 Panzer IVs. And so they can go up here, 2, 3, or we can go 1, This is tough because I don't want to put them in a spot where they're open to fire from this guy. What do we want to do here? Well, we could go down the road. 1, 2, 3. They have a movement factor of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do that. I'm going to go here. Drop a move. And now we really have a whole lot of bad news coming for these two T-34s here, which is why I mentioned in the previous turn that it was a bad idea to move there, but I did want to show close assault. So the Soviets were also of an aggressive nature. Their tactical acumen wasn't always the best, but that is going to complete the German movement phase, and now we'll move over and do the Soviet movement phase. Okay, so we will again start up top. So we have a T-34 here and a T-70 here. Let's take our T-34 and go 2, 4, and we'll put him there. Now he is in position for a close assault. And we'll take our T-70 and have him go 2, 4 as well, and also in this hex for close assault, so that these guys can now assault that unit that's disrupted, right? Or is, oh yeah, that's a Panzer IV. He's disrupted, so that'll take care of that. Now we have the hill here, so there are a couple things we can do. We have two T-34s here, so let's be aggressive. Let's go 1, 2, 3, and put a moved here. And now we are also set up to possibly assault here. We'll take these guys and slide them up there. We'll slide this one here and put moved on both of those. And then our KV-1s, we'll go 1, 2, 3. We're going to move them here. All right, so now we've got close assault possibilities all over the place. This is going to be fun because close assault goes in alternating order. So that's going to be a whole lot of fun. Now let me move down. Actually, we can see the units here. So we have two T-34s here. They're going to move up as well. They're going to drop in right here. Just one. Now we can fire again, but it might be better to just attack this Panzer III via close assault. So we're going to do that. So I'm just going to drop a moved on here because this guy's disrupted. His close assault defense will be halved of his 4. It'll be a 2. So it's going to be a lot easier to destroy him. Now I have two T-70s down on the objective at B8, and I'm going to leave them there. So that will complete the Soviet movement phase, and we'll move on to close assault. Okay, so putting on my Stahlheim here to kind of try to think as the German would think. We know we alternate in close assault. So we can take this guy out, and it's going to be pretty straightforward. The Soviets can't really do any spoiling attacks in this area because he's disrupted. Their nearest other units are all the way over here or up here and already moved. So we don't have to worry about anything down here. This one is a safe one to wait on, is my point. But up here, we've got all kinds of chicanery afoot from both sides. So what do we want to do, and how do we want to do it, right? So these two are Soviets. This one's fired. Anybody who's fired cannot do anything. So this guy is safe, and he's going to end up assaulting here because these two can't interfere. Well, he can't help, and he can't interfere. So then we move up to this spot here. So if we look here, we have, underneath here, we have two units, a Panzer IV and a Panzer III. Both of them have a close assault factor of 4. We look over here, and we have our two KV-1s, which both have a close assault factor of 4. What I'm thinking here is we're going to take a shot at attacking these guys. Originally, I was going to do a flanking close assault on here, but I kind of want to spoil the fun for these guys. from the German standpoint, because, you know, this guy here, it's a T-70 and a T-34. We have a disrupted unit here. So that guy's going to get assaulted by these guys, and I can't really do much about that. But I can do something here to preempt, because they've got 2, 3 potentially here if they wanted to, and if they wanted to leave this guy alone, they could do 3 on this guy. So we need to break that up a little bit. So we're going to attack here because they're on the same level. So we have 8 total, attacking 8 total. They're on the same level, so there's no shift for uphill or anything like that. This is going to be a pretty straight 1-to-1 assault. So a 1-to-1 assault in general is not going to give you great odds, but it's not going to be terrible either. So here's 1-to-1, right? So again, you roll anything basically 3 or lower, gives you a reasonable chance of doing some damage. It starts to get a little bit less likely as you go up above 4. So let's give this thing a whirl here. Okay, so I removed the moved from these guys so that, because they're participating in an assault here. Now he has underneath here, he has the aid, which will come into effect for the rally phase. So if I disrupt him, he can use his aid to re-roll for rally, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it as the Soviet player. So the Germans are going to attack. It's again a 1-to-1 attack, pretty straight up. Rolled a 4. So a 4 on a 1-to-1 in the close attack, as I mentioned, isn't great. So it's 3 hits to them, 5 to the Germans. Okay, so we're going to roll 3 for the defender. And they negated all 3 hits. So that's bad for the Germans, but good for the Soviets. So now we'll roll 5 for the Germans. And let me re-roll that one since it popped out. So we have negate, 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 2 hits. So what that's going to do is that's going to disrupt both of the German Panzer IVs. And both of these guys get fired. And it also removes the flanking penalty from these 2 guys were they to decide to assault here. So that's good in a way. It's also a little bit of a negative because these guys are now disrupted. So we could just assault here and get, you know, pretty decent odds in favor of the Soviets. But it was worth a shot. So we're going to move back to the German side now. And as I mentioned, on the German, we're going to move to the Soviet side. Soviet side. So they have multiple options. They can go here. They can go here, they can go these 2 here, or just 1 there. They have multiple options to choose from. Okay, so it doesn't really make much difference. We're going to take our T-34, 2 T-34s here with an 8, and they're going to attack this disrupted one, which is also an 8, but because they're disrupted, they go down to a 4, so it's a 2-to-1. They are attacking downhill, which doesn't have an impact in this case. So it's a straight up 2-to-1 assault. And we're just going to roll 1 die and get a 7. So a 7 on a 2-to-1 is a 3 hits to the defender, 5 hits to the attacker. So this is what we just saw, basically, essentially. So we're going to roll the defender first, 3 hits. This is the Germans. They get 1 hit additional. So we will reduce our Panzer III. And now we'll roll the 5 hits against the Soviets. And again, they need lower than a 4. So they take 1 hit, which is really good for them. They get 1 hit. So that's 1 disrupted, and we'll put it on the bottom, T-34. Both units get fired. That one already had 1. So now we go back to the German close assault, and they're going to do their only legal close assault that is left, I believe, is down at the southern end. So we're going to move down there. So we have a whole lot of people that can attack here. So we're going to have 4, 8, I think this is 4. They're all the tanks are 4s. So 4, 8, 12, and then there's 2 here. So that's 20, and they have, it's 5 to 1 basically. So it's 5 to 1, and they're also flanked. So that's going to shift. Flanking shifts it to the right by 1. So we go from a 5 to 1 to a 6 to 1, which is the highest column you have on the close assault table. Here it is. So eliminated. Anything 6 and under is going to eliminate them with no damage to the Germans. 10 and 8 is probably going to eliminate them as well, only because there's 2 units in there that are both disrupted. So we only need 4 hits to actually kill them. So let's roll our 1 die. Roll the 9. The best possible result for the Soviets. So that's good from the Soviet side. So they get 8 hits to roll. So I'm going to do 4 and 4 only because I only have 6 dice. So we get 3 hits. Okay, so they have 3 hits so far. Now we'll roll our next 4. 4, 5, 5 hits total. So 5 hits total is going to eliminate these units anyway. So the 2 T-34s are eliminated. We need to roll to see about the Germans. They took 2 hits. So again, we need a 5 or lower. 5 and 2, so no hits to the Germans. Both are negated. And we move. We're going to move somebody up. So who do we want to move up? We'll move our Tiger up. So the Tiger moves up. I could have used my aid, or focus rather, to re-roll. But I didn't. It doesn't really matter. We eliminated them anyway. It was kind of a calculated risk. But we'll take it. All of these guys get fired markers. So fired, 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 fired. And that ends the Germans' second one, and this will be their last one. So now we're going to move back to the Soviets because they still have a couple that they are going to do. The Soviets now will do theirs. So they have here this guy here attacking this disrupted guy right here. So they're going to be attacking with 8 2 T-34s against a Panzer III that's disrupted. So that's a 2. That's a 4 to 1. They're in rolling terrain, so that's going to be a 1 hex shift to the left. So they're in the 3 to 1 column, which is still pretty dangerous for the defender. So here is our 3 to 1 column. We eliminate on a 1, and then everything else is going to obviously get better for the defender. So high is good for defender, and low is good for the attacker. And we rolled a 3, and a 3 in that column is 8 hits for the defender and 2 for the attacker. So again, I'll roll 4 for the Germans. Anything 5 or under is a miss. So that's 3 hits. That's going to do it. I don't need to roll the rest. 3 hits will destroy this unit. So he is destroyed. So we've had 2 T-34s knocked out and a Panzer III now. Now we need to roll the 2 hits for the Soviets, and they get 1 hit. So they are going to get a disruption on one of their T-34s. And that moved becomes a fired. And now, because the Germans don't have any other units that can assault, they're going to go on to the Soviets. It'll bounce back to the Soviets, and they're going to do an assault here. They have a T-70 and a T-34. The T-70's close assault is only a 3, so that's 7. 7 to 4 is going to end up being a 1 to 1. They're in a forest hex, but they're disrupted. So it's 7 to 2, so that's 3 to 1, and we get a column shift for the forest of 1, I believe. Yes, 1. No, 0 for close assault. So the tanks get no benefit for that. So it's going to be the 3 to 1 column, which again is great for the attacker. So let's roll and get a 9. A 9 on the 3 to 1 is 3 to 3, so that's not great for the attacker. So we'll roll the defender first, 3 dice. 4, 6, and 3. So that's 1 more hit. So they are going to lose a step. The Panzer IV is reduced. remains disrupted. And now we roll 3 for the attacker. We need a 4 or better. They take 2 hits, so both of their units will be disrupted. And they both get fired markers. I need to find it. Yeah, here we go. So fired and fired. And that, my friends, ends the close assault phase. So now we go to housekeeping. I'm going to clean up and remove all our markers here. We'll come back for our aid and focus phase. Okay, so aid and focus. So the rules are that you can actually move that counter 3 hexes if the unit that it was with didn't move. Unfortunately, most of the units that were with it did move. So they can't move. We can't move it, but we can, and it's right here. We can flip it back to its 2 side. I think. Actually, we used it this turn, so I don't think we can actually do anything with it. So we're going to leave it there. And going to move on to advancing our turn marker to turn number 4. So this would be our turn marker for turn number 4, right there. And what I'm going to do, as I mentioned at the top, this is obviously pretty long at this point. I'm going to stop here. This is halfway through the scenario. We're going to take a break. I will come back with a part 3, essentially, of my series here, and part 3 will cover turns 4, 5, and 6 of this scenario. We'll finish out this first part of the Battle of Prokhorovka and move on from there, and probably go on to either a Tracks in the Mud scenario or directly into Armageddon War. So as always, I appreciate you guys taking your time watching. I hope you gathered some good information or enjoyment from watching. I do definitely appreciate it, and would appreciate it even more if you would consider liking, sharing, and or subscribing if you're not already a subscriber. If you are a subscriber, I am eternally grateful for your support for my channel, and thank you for being a subscriber. So that will do it for this video. Until next time, my name is Joe. This has been Hexed and Countered, and I wish you always and forever happy gaming.